Good morning, good morning, good morning, folks. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back. We are live. I feel like we were just here. Today we're going to be trying to get a grasp on what the hell is going on with this Candace Owens. Good morning, good morning, folks. I forgot to mute that part. I'm trying to get a grasp on what the hell's going on with this Candace Owens, Andrew Wilson debate. Let's get down to the actual facts of what's been going on. I have a Pangburn analysis here, all completed. So we'll go through the information. We'll see if the chronology is correct. I'm going to share that report with you guys live in a window. Let me just get that set up. We're going to watch Andrew's crowdfunding video here. There's been some allegations that Andrew Wilson was treating this originally like, he had the cash to pay for Candace to do this debate. And then he needed to crowdfund that cash. But I think there's some misinformation baked into that. So we'll see what's actually true, what's factual in this whole thing. Make sure you guys smash that like button when you get into the room. And by the end of this, hopefully we will have all the facts straight. We'll do a deep fact check on this mother. I have reached out to, I just put an X post on Andrew's post, his fundraising post, and under one of Candace's posts if they feel like jumping on today for a quick interview. Let's see here. And as new information comes to us or we are presented with new evidence and it seems reliable, we will update our work. I think I'll keep our little report right here. A report window. Okay. So what we have here is the Andrew Wilson versus Candace Owens debate, the $300,000 debate, chronology, negotiation audit, fundraising analysis, and financial verification report. So the current announced purse, $300K, final public figure, crowdfunding goal on Give, Send, Go is set to $300,000. Currently raised around $49,367. The debate date is apparently in 2 days. Document status, publication ready as a time bound. Here, actually, let me just adjust the window here. So we will eventually watch that Andrew Wilson video. But we are looking currently at our beautiful report. Publication ready as a time-bounded chronology and financial audit. It does not adjudicate the underlying Charlie Kirk homicide case, of course. That's not what we're doing today. Tyler Robinson's criminal guilt or the truth of every substantive theory expected to be argued in the debate. Those questions require separate evidence ledgers. So we will, of course, because I think this will be quite a high-profile debate with a high chance of misinformation, bad faith, unhelpfulness, propaganda in the actual debate, potentially some anti-Semitism. So we will We will, of course, be doing a thorough fact check of this debate as soon as the transcript becomes available. So the cutoff here is public evidence reviewed through August 12th, 2026. That's today. Fundraiser totals, scheduling, and debate terms can change after publication, of course. The exact final $300,000 contract payment instrument has not been made public in the records reviewed. Okay, executive assessment. Bottom line, the debate is no longer merely a challenge. Both camps now publicly indicate that it is scheduled for Friday, August 14th, 2026, with Patrick Bet David announced as moderator. The money trail, however, remains less transparent than the event schedule. Andrew Wilson says he sent $300,000 and that Owens staff confirmed receipt. The public record reviewed here does not include an independently authenticated wire receipt, escrow statement, bank record, or final contract. The dispute predates Wilson's August 5th Joe Rogan appearance. By July 5th, Brian Atlas of the Whatever podcast had publicly offered $50,000, later $60,000, to induce a Wilson Owens debate. Wilson then publicized a separate $300,000 challenge on the Joe Rogan Experience. Owens countered at $500,000. Wilson discussed a $500,000 per side crowdfunded escalation. Owens rejected the crowdfunding move and returned to Wilson's original $300,000 figure. Interesting. For those of you who aren't aware of the range of speaking fees in the live speaking world, it will probably make some of you choke on your coffee. But when it comes to high profile events and debates that are going to garner a lot of views, a lot of attention, perhaps some sponsorship, if you were doing this in a live event hall or a theater, let's say you do it in a 5,000 seat theater, right? 5,000 seat theater at, let's say, $150 average per ticket. Right there, you have, if you can sell that out, a $750,000 purse to work with, if you can sell it out, right? It wouldn't be responsible to base all of your event costs on a sellout. You usually do that at around 40 to 50%. So, and imagine you could sell out a small arena, a 10,000 seat arena, right? At average, let's say $125 a ticket. Then you're looking at 1.25 million, right? You're looking at $1.25 million in revenue. So that's how these speaking fees get generated for things like this. This one's a little different and a little bit strange because this is just a podcast appearance, basically, it looks like. There is the crowdfunding element. But I would have, of course, suggested that this would be a great opportunity to do a large, arena size event, like not do this tomorrow, but, a month or two from now, do it in New York City, do it in LA, get a big arena, try to make a massive, big event out of it. And then these figures that are being thrown around would be reachable and everyone would be happy. For example, like the O2 Arena, which is about 25,000 seats, just off the top of my head, in London, is about $250,000 once everything's all in, said and done. About $250,000, between $200,000, $250,000, depending on what size of production it is to rent. So you would minus that from your, plus the marketing cost, etc. Some events are so popular that you don't have to do much marketing for them. But yeah, anyways, so okay, we went through that. The present Give, Send, Go is not accurately described as a campaign that Andrew needs in order to produce the original $300,000. The campaign itself says Wilson already put up $300,000 of his own money. So that's the claim. Was it his own money? Did someone else help fund this? That's another question. But the current existing claim seems to be that this was $300,000 of his own money. If the debate occurs, donations first reimburse him. If it does not occur, up to $300,000 raised is promised for the children of Charlie and Erica Kirk. Any amount beyond reimbursement is described as supporting Wilson's future debate activity. The most consequential unresolved financial fact is what the final $300,000 legally is. During the temporary $500,000 phase, reporting explicitly described a winner-take-all structure. The final $300,000 phase is instead described through phrases such as, quote, accept your initial 300K, quote, sent the 300,000, and money at risk. Without the final agreement, the report does not label it definitively as an appearance fee, bet, prize purse, escrow, deposit, or winner-take-all award. At this point, I would say the most plausible thing is that this is an appearance fee. This is a speaking fee. That seems to be the most likely case. Insert F word says, is this 3 baby daddy guy? Andrew Wilson? I think that might be him. Headline finding. So we're going to go finding, assessment, and why it matters. So the finding, debate status, strongly supported. Owens announced Friday. Her channel says Patrick Bet David will moderate. Finding, $300,000 transfer, claimed, not independently verified. Wilson says it was sent and confirmed by Owens staff. No public bank escrow instrument located. Fundraiser amount, almost $50,000 verified at cutoff of this report. Direct Give, Send, Go page, 16.46% of $300,000 goal. So they've currently raised about nearly 17% of the goal. I mean, that date is coming up. Couple days. Fundraiser purpose, conditional, often misdescribed. Debate happens, reimburse Wilson first. Debate fails, up to $300,000 for Kirk children. TPUSA. TIPSA. Unsupported. No public finance evidence located tying TPUSA to the $300,000. Final money mechanism. Unresolved. The public record does not establish who ultimately receives the $300,000 under every outcome. But again, I think the most likely scenario here is that this is just Candace Owens' fee in order to make this conversation happen. I will give my normative opinions where they currently are, and then I'm going to do some auditing on Andrew Wilson himself as a debater and Candace Owens herself as a debater. Currently, I believe that both of them fall into bad faith and unhelpfulness in many ways as kind of what they generally bring to the table. I'm not saying that that's always the case, or that there aren't debates out there where they've put together some good faith, helpful, minimum requirements for the fruitful dialectic. That's how I judge a virtuous conversation. If it maintains good faith, that is honesty and sincerity of intentions, and whether or not it's helpful. and helpfulness can come in many different ways. But if your debate opponent is struggling to give their strongest form of their argument against you, I think the helpful thing to do and the virtuous thing to do is to, metaphorically give them a helping hand and help them form the strongest form of their argument so that you are engaging with what is the strongest form of their argument. I think that is a virtuous posture ultimately that seeks to maximize well-being for yourself and those around you. And that's where I think the good and righteousness in life is grounded in well-being calculus. So let's look at method, scope, and evidentiary rules. Controlling scope. The report answers a narrower question than a fact check of the assassination itself, how the Andrew Wilson-Candace Owens debate challenge developed, what financial offers were actually distinct, what is known about the fundraiser, and which financial claims are verified, merely asserted, qualified, or unresolved. Pangburn evidence hierarchy. The audit follows the Pangburn analysis forensic fact-checking replication standard. Primary records first, exact attribution, atomization of compound claims, adversarial search for disconfirming evidence, separation of verdict from confidence, and preference for unresolved findings over speculative certainty. Tier A, direct, give, send, go campaign and feed transfer pages, official YouTube uploads, Joe Rogan episode metadata. Tier C, secondary, contemporaneous articles that preserve screenshots or direct quotations from public posts. Interested source rule, statements by Wilson, Owens, or their own campaign materials establish what they claimed, not necessarily the underlying financial fact. And derivative source rule, multiple articles quoting the same social media post are one evidentiary lineage, not independent confirmations. Verdict taxonomy, just so we understand what we mean by our verdicts. Supported is to mean directly established to the stated scope. Qualified but misleading means real core, but a material condition, scope limitation, or uncertainty is omitted. Unsupported means claim exceeds the public evidence, not necessarily disproven. Claimed / not independently verified. A participant says it happened, but independent documentary confirmation is absent. Unresolved means the available record does not safely determine the proposition. Time-bound evidence rule. The fundraiser total is a moving figure. The displayed total of $49,367 and the 16.46 completion figure are snapshots at the report cutoff, not permanent facts. Likewise, an announced debate can still be delayed or canceled. The report therefore distinguishes, quote, announced / scheduled from occurred. Important firewall. This document does not adopt Wilson's characterization or Owens' wider theory as fact, and it does not adopt Owens' quote, patsy theory as fact. It records their public positions only insofar as necessary to explain why the debate is happening. So here's the chronology, how the debate developed. Phase 1, the dispute forms before the large money offers. Wilson was publicly criticizing the evidentiary basis of Owens' Charlie Kirk investigation before his August Joe Rogan appearance. Secondary reporting, I'm going to make this a little so I can see better. Secondary reporting places, you guys still see all that? Yeah, okay, good. Secondary reporting places the public challenges as far back as March 2026, while Owens herself was later quoted saying Wilson had been requesting a debate, quote, since May. The reviewed record does not contain a clean primary March challenge sufficient to lock March as the exact origin date. Date verdict. Publication safe wording. Wilson was publicly contesting Owens' Kirk claims by spring 2026, and by Owens' own later account, had been requesting a debate since at least May. Treat March as a secondary reported origin date, not a locked primary source date. Phase 2, July 5th. Brian Atlas adds a $50,000, then $60,000 inducement. Brian Atlas, host of the Whatever podcast, offered $50,000 to Candace Owens to debate Wilson on his program, and later increased the figure to $60,000. This was a third-party host offer, not Wilson staking $60,000 in a winner-take-all pool. As of July 5th reporting, Owens had not publicly accepted. Phase 3, August 5th. Wilson publicizes a separate $300,000 offer on Joe Rogan Experience. The Joe Rogan Experience, number 2535 with Andrew Wilson, was published August 5th, 2026. In the episode, Wilson said he had offered Owens $300,000 to debate. This is the event that made the challenge nationally visible. But it was not the beginning of the underlying dispute. Wilson also characterized Owens' broader theory in sweeping terms involving Israel, TPUSA, and Erica Kirk. This report treats that as Wilson's characterization of her position, not as a neutral statement of what Owens has proven or precisely claimed in every episode. Phase 4, August 7th. Owens raises the stakes to $500,000. Owens responded with a $500,000 proposal described in contemporaneous reporting as winner take all, tied to an in-person debate in her studio. She also attempted to attach a condition involving public acknowledgement from figures associated with TPUSA. Wilson objected that he did not represent TPUSA, saying he had done one contract engagement but represented himself. Phase 5, the proposed $1 million exposure and crowdfunding dispute. Wilson then discussed a structure in which each side would put up $500,000, creating $1 million in total exposure, and said he was willing to crowdfund the increased amount. Owens attacked the crowdfunding move and returned to his initial $300,000. This is the source of a frequent online conflation. Crowdfunding entered the public negotiation around the escalated $500,000 per side proposal, not as proof that Wilson lacked the original $300,000. Phase 6, venue, topic, cross-examination, and moderator disputes. The negotiation then shifted from money to rules. Wilson pushed for a neutral venue, substantial timed cross-examination, and a proposition that required Owens to defend her own affirmative assassination claims. Owens wanted the debate at her studio, accepted live fact-checking terms, and at one stage accepted Michael Knowles as moderator. By the way, when this debate happens, it looks like it's going to happen, we will be doing a very thorough fact-checking and good faith unhelpfulness audit of this debate. Knowles later declined the moderator role. Both camps subsequently described Joe Rogan as having offered to host or moderate. The public record reviewed here supports an in-principle Rogan offer, but does not establish a completed Rogan-hosted contract. Phase 7, August 12th, Patrick Bet-David and Friday confirmation. Owens' official YouTube channel published, quote, "The Great Debate, It's Happening," stating that Patrick Bet-David will moderate. Separately, Owens publicly confirmed the debate for Friday. Given the report date of Wednesday, August 12th, that corresponds to Friday, August 14th, 2026. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being with me. Make sure you smash that like button when you get into the room. I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section. I might even open up this stream for calls at some point. But thank you for being with me. If you're interested in helping bring more people to the stream, you can share my X post right here. Really appreciate it. At a glance, timeline. So we have everything here. So date, development, money, and evidence status. So spring 2026, Wilson publicly challenges, criticizes Owen. Exact first direct challenge date not locked. So this is qualified. No money involved in this at this point. July 5th, Brian Atlas offers $50,000, then $60,000 to secure debate. We have $50,000, $60,000. This is well supported. August 5th, Wilson says on Joe Rogan Experience, he offered Owens $300,000. The money here, of course, is $3,000. This is supported as an offer. August 7th, Owens counters at $500,000. Wilson objects to other terms. We have $500,000, and this is well supported. August 7th to 8th, Wilson discusses $500,000 each in crowdfunding. Owens rejects and returns to initial figure. $1 million total proposed. This is supported as secondary preserved evidence. That's the evidence status, is secondary preserved. August 9th to 11th, moderator / venue / topic negotiations. Knowles exits. Rogan offer discussed. We're still talking $300,000. Partly, so the evidence status is partly primary, partly reported. August 11th, Wilson says he sent $300,000 and Owens' staff confirmed. The claim is that the $300,000 was sent. This has not independently been verified. August 12th, Owens announces Friday debate. Patrick Bet David named as moderator, $300,000 public figure. This is strongly supported. The money trail, 4 different financial structures. Do not collapse these figures. The $50,000 / $60,000 Atlas offer, Wilson's $300,000 offer, the temporary $500K / $1 million proposal, and the current $300,000 Give, Send, Go fundraiser are distinct financial episodes with different actors and functions. So we have number 1, Brian Atlas host inducement. That was the $50,000, later $60,000 offer. Who Brian Atlas from the Whatever podcast function. Money offered to get Owens to debate Wilson on Atlas's show, not Wilson's stake. This has been superseded, not final. Number 2, Wilson original challenge, $300,000. Who? Andrew Wilson. Wilson says he offered this amount to debate Owens. Exact legal payment mechanism, not public. Final public figure returned. Final public figure. Oh, we eventually will return to this final public figure. Yes. Number 3, escalated counter proposal. $500,000, later $500,000 each. Owens / Wilson counter negotiation. Owens proposed a $500,000 winner take all structure. Wilson later discussed $500,000 each, $1 million total exposure. This is from the now obsolete negotiation phase. Wilson Give, Send, Go, $300,000 goal, currently just under, since we made this report, just under $50,000 raised. Andrew Wilson campaign, that's who is responsible for this campaign. If debate occurs, reimburse Wilson first. If not, up to $300,000 for Kirk children. Excess supports future debate activity. Status is, this is active at the cutoff of when this report was made. All right. What does, quote, sent $300,000 actually establish? Wilson said in his August 11th recorded statement that after negotiations and a new moderator, he, quote, went ahead and sent the $300,000, end quote, and that Owens' staff confirmed it to his team. That is strong evidence that Wilson publicly committed himself to the transfer claim. It is not independent financial verification. No bank wire receipt was located in the reviewed public record. No independent escrow statement was located. No final contract spelling out payment contingencies was located. No third-party auditor or payment processor has publicly authenticated the transfer in the reviewed record. Financial verdict: Wilson sent the $300,000 claimed / not independently verified. The correct publication language is that Wilson says he sent it and says Owens staff confirmed it. The transaction itself remains undocumented to the public standard used here. I would say it's quite plausible at this point. I think we would have seen pushback by Candace Owens based on how they've been interacting with each other on X. I think it's very likely that Andrew Wilson or someone on behalf of Andrew Wilson, either way, $300,000 has almost certainly been received by Owens, or I think she would have mentioned something about this at this point. That would be quite the big scam or lie to expose from her perspective if that wasn't actually sent. Is TPUSA financing the $300,000? No public financial evidence located in this review ties Turning Point USA to Wilson's $300,000. Wilson has publicly denied representing TPUSA and described one prior contract engagement. That does not prove the source of the $300,000, but it does mean claims that TPUSA is bankrolling the challenge should not be stated as fact without financial documentation. Is the final $300,000 winner take all? The temporary $500,000, is the final $300,000 winner take all? The temporary $500,000 phase was explicitly described as a winner take all in contemporaneous reporting. The final $300,000 arrangement is less clearly documented. Owen said she would accept the initial $300,000. Wilson says he sent it. The fundraiser calls his money, quote, at risk. Those facts are insufficient to determine with publication level confidence whether the final instrument is an appearance fee, adjudicated prize, forfeitable deposit, wager-like purse, or another contractual payment. I think the most likely thing at this point is this is just an appearance fee for this debate or a speaking fee. I think that's the most likely case. But again, all of this information is open to update. Thanks for being with me, everyone. Make sure you drop a like on the stream, share it around. I gave you guys the X link if you want to share my X post to get more people coming to the stream. So hold contract. Do not publish, quote, the winner gets $300,000 as a settled description of the final arrangement unless the signed terms, escrow, payment agreement, or an unambiguous joint statement is obtained. So again, I think the most likely scenario here is that this is just something Candace Owens is receiving as a speaking fee for this debate. Andrew Wilson give, send, go forensic financial analysis. So we just generated this report. I think it's probably a couple hours ago now. So there's a $300,000 goal, and that's in US dollars. Raised at that point just under $50,000. Completion nearly 17% of stated goal. Remaining about $250,000. The direct give, send, go page lists Andrew Wilson as fundraiser creator, a $300,000 goal, and nearly $50,000 raised as the report cutoff. The campaign's stated disposition of funds. You know what I think we'll do now, since we're into this, I think we will watch Andrew's video here now. And this will give us some context for this data. And you guys let me know in the comment section what you think of this video. I have not seen this video, by the way.
Let me give everyone an update. Let me give everyone an update of exactly where we are. A few weeks ago, Brian Atlas, a friend of mine who runs the Whatever podcast, offered up $100,000.
Sorry, one thing I want to do first is I want to add this transcript to this report and record, because I will eventually be releasing this public report, probably by the end of today, so people can be well informed on the actual facts. Six sheets of paper? I guess it's a short video, huh? I just want to make sure on that. Yeah, it's 5 minutes and 41 seconds. Okay. I'm used to doing transcripts that are like 90 sheets of paper. And what we're going to do is we're going to see how closely what Andrew is reporting here matches the facts. Oops. Okay, so we're running that analysis right now. Let's watch the video. Sorry about that interruption.
Let me give everyone an update of exactly where we are. A few weeks ago, Brian Atlas, a friend of mine who runs the Whatever podcast, offered up $100,000 for Candace Owens to debate with me about the murder of Charlie Kirk on his platform. He eventually raised it to $150,000, to which I said I would match it if we could.
So right off the bat, we see competing numbers with our report. So this could have been later offers that my audit didn't see on X. So we will double check this and correct it if we need to.
Actually debate on neutral ground. I expressed this story recently on the Joe Rogan podcast. Candace and her family eventually raised it to 100.
Sorry, I need to do something really quick. I'm going to switch over to my. That's I won't still here.
Let me give everyone an update of exactly where we are. A few weeks ago, Brian Atlas, a friend of mine who runs the Whatever podcast, offered up $100,000 for Candace Owens to debate with me about the murder of Charlie Kirk on his platform. He eventually raised it to $150,000, to which I said I would match it if we could actually debate on neutral ground. I expressed this story recently on the Joe Rogan podcast. Candace and her fans' reactions were volatile, to say the least. She issued a strange counter that I needed to pay her $500,000 and that TPUSA needed to, quote, claim me. Now, I don't work for TPUSA, so I couldn't grant that concession, as it would have been a lie. She followed with an offer of me paying $300,000.
Well, they could have at that point claimed you if they wanted to see this happen, right? They could have claimed Andrew then.
Dollars to debate her at her home on the topic of if Tyler Robinson killed.
They could have just come out and said, well, he hasn't been working for us, but now we're going to claim him because we want him to, debunk your conspiracy theory. They could have done that.
Charlie Kirk, and if he was a federal patsy or not. Obviously, this gives massive advantages to Owens, but I'm never one to back down from a debate challenge, even if I think the terms are fundamentally unfair. We entered into negotiations, and during those negotiations, Joe Rogan contacted us both, asking to host our debate. This is perhaps something you guys don't know. Obviously, I thought that changed everything. as that would guarantee the biggest platform for both of us to make our case on neutral ground. Unsurprisingly to me, Candace Owens declined. No control, you see. She insisted.
He adds the rhetorical "no control," you see. So far, I haven't seen any good evidence to demonstrate that it was a control issue. There is a publicly available Candace Owens DM response that we can go through with her reasoning.
It be at her home still, even after Rogan said he would come in on his off day to do the debate, and I would still give her the $300,000. You would think if she was actually trying to change the minds of normies and reach a new audience, that's where she would go, but sadly, no.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to require the Joe Rogan platform for this. Yeah, it's a much bigger platform, but I think it's going to be well talked about and well covered, and probably Andrew's going to come back and talk about it on the Joe Rogan show, and a lot of people are going to be talking about this, I think, because it relates to Charlie Kirk and the assassination.
After many rounds of negotiations and a new moderator stepping in who assures us it'll be fair, we came to an agreement. I went ahead and sent the $300,000, and it has been confirmed by her staff and to us.
So Andrew says he sent the $300,000?
That it has been sent.
And there's been confirmation, according to him, that it has been received. He should have said not sent, but quibble.
I am going to clear the air on a few things. I wasn't some Charlie Kirk fanboy. In fact, I had my and still have my disagreements with him. But I always thought TPUSA did way more good than it did harm to the conservative movement. But I will never forget the series of TikTok invasions I did post Charlie's death, only to watch the lunatic left laughing and mocking and having the time of their lives watching the spiral of chaos that came after. It was enraging, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, whatever side of the political spectrum, anyone celebrating that wrongful assassination, I think was disgusting. I think that was a disgusting thing to celebrate. There's no righteousness in that. It's wrongful. There is no good in that. It's bad. The disgusting thing. You should not be celebrating things like that. This is a person who was going around spouting ideas that many of you detest and found are dangerous ideas, including me. A lot of ideas I was hearing from Charlie Kirk I thought were dangerous. I thought he struck me as someone who was sincere with their intentions, in that he was good faith, and in not all of the content I saw from Charlie Kirk, and I'm not a big Charlie Kirk observer. I must admit that I've only seen a handful of things from Charlie Kirk, but I saw some helpful interactions and I saw some unhelpful interactions. But yeah, he held ideas that I detest, but that doesn't mean that anyone is justified in taking his life. And I thought the war of ideas, although I'm often on the other side of the war of ideas, against Charlie Kirk, but I think the war of ideas lost a very important warrior that obviously was saying a lot of things that struck home to a vast amount of people. So when I see someone like Charlie Kirk, I'm salivating at the mouth to get him on the Pangburn stage to have some good faith, helpful debates and conversations. I was in conversations with Charlie Kirk representatives when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. So I had thought that there would be some great opportunities for us to do some work together. Again, even me being someone who's, center left, quite liberal, I think there was a lot of opportunity to do a lot of good by way of the good faith, helpful dialectic. And there were a lot of opponents I wanted to see Charlie Kirk test his might against. But unfortunately, the assassination occurred, and most unfortunately for him and his family. So I think it was a wrongful and bad thing that happened. Just so I'm very clear about that.
I know I'm not a very nice man. I get that. But I am a very kind man. I lamented many times to my wife how god-awful the family and friends of Charlie must feel about what happened to him after he died. Trying to find some new normal under intense media scrutiny, balancing duty and obligation with remorse, regret, and overwhelming sadness. My stated objective for my platform, The Crucible, has been unwavering, and I've never strayed from its goal. Destroy the left. Take them on everywhere on their own turf, outside their turf, at their events, in their safe spaces. Challenge them everywhere and destroy their ideas. Be unrelenting, never stop, and not one step back.
I will say, Andrew Wilson, I feel, I had a brief interaction with Andrew Wilson over DM, and maybe he will publicize this, maybe he won't. It's fine if he does, but I don't do that kind of thing. Where I felt he was doing everything he could to find reasons to get out of a Pangburn stage opportunity. And of course, at the Pangburn stage, debaters are tasked to engage in a good faith, helpful way. So that would be part of the contract, or even the general requirements for engaging on the Pangburn stage. Sometimes that information isn't included in the contract, but in the conversations leading up to the stage, we start having those conversations about, and we do expect that, debaters be honest and be as helpful as they can to make sure the opportunity for a fruitful conversation doesn't get crushed. And I felt like in that experience of DMing with Andrew Wilson, it felt like he was doing kind of everything he could to crush that opportunity. Like I won't say specific things, but there was one thing where my team sent Andrew's contract, because I was contracting him to have a debate with an atheist, and they had made a mistake, and it was an honest error with regards to his fee. I think it left out the and this is just off the top of my head, but it left out the profit sharing element, the share of the net proceeds in the contract, the net ticket proceeds. And Andrew seemed to, like, instead of allowing us to correct it and send it back to him, which we would have done instantly because it was just an honest error, he started acting as though there was like a conspiracy to commit fraud against him. And I tried to maintain my patience with him, but eventually, after he said, I'm going to need some like independent verification that this isn't a scam and things like that, I decided that Andrew was not ready for the Pangburn stage, at least at that time. There are things I have offered since, like just as a possible future event, I would really like to see a 4-hour epic between him and Destiny, Stephen Bonnell, if Andrew's open to that. And I think we could make quite a large event out of it. Andrew could make a lot of money. But I think that would be a true political test for Andrew Wilson. And I feel as though Destiny as an opponent has been somewhat dodged by Andrew Wilson. But maybe he will one day come and accept the challenge. And if you look at the track record of the Penguin stage, it has always just been about putting people on stage together, demanding that they try their best to engage in a good faith, helpful way, and let each other have it. So that's what the Penguin stage has always been about. If you want to see the style of conversation I imagine between someone like Andrew Wilson and Destiny, just go and watch Jordan Peterson versus Matt Dillahunty on our stage. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, public debate dialogue in history. But that's what I think we could create with Andrew and Destiny. There are also other opponents, I think, that would give Andrew a deep run for his money, including myself, but I don't think Andrew's ready for me. I think he needs some more work. But he'll get there. But anytime, Andrew. Anytime.
This woman, Candace, has been terrorizing both the widow of Charlie Kirk and the organization he left behind. It's obvious her stated goal is to destroy the largest conservative college and high school outreach program currently in existence. Do I disagree with a lot of TPUSA ideas? I do. I would rather try to change them, though, than burn down the only organization in my lifetime to really get a foothold in academia, the thing conservatives have wanted for 60 years. In the following weeks, I will be relentlessly attacked from the Candace Owens cult for daring to put their leader to the question and for daring to question the questioners. I accept that as a side effect of challenging what has become a powerful industry of conspiracy peddling true crime nonsense, which has a sycophantic and cult-like following. They have been at it for days, going through everything they can possibly dig up about me to hurt me, as there is multitudes of millions of dollars on the line for these creators, and they will stop at nothing to protect their interests, regardless of the lives they destroy along the way. Many creators and private individuals have reached out to help me with this financial burden, and they understand the fallout which is likely to come for me and my family for doing the right thing when it mattered the most.
So there's an admission right there that other creators and people have reached out to help him with this burden. Maybe that includes some of the like top donors on the GoFundMe, or it's called something else. Not GoFundMe. Is Give, Send, Go. Give, Send, Go.
Now, to be clear, I have already sent Candace the $300,000 and fulfilled my end of the contract with her. If you guys want to help me in bearing that cost and help cushion the overwhelming attacks from her sycophants, here's where you can donate. Many of us are in this fight together, win or lose. Maybe I can do something to change its course for the entirety of the conservative movement. Promise made, promise kept. Thank you for your time.
All right. Strikes me as a sincere ask. I think he is, he's about to go into a battle of ideas, a very publicized war of ideas relating to a very serious topic. We're going to get into today. Someone says so self-important. I mean, that's so you got to engage with the positive utilitarian lensing and the negative utilitarian lensing. Don't let your negativity bias be the only thing that emerges in your mind. Allow your positive lensing to come through and think about, even from a lot of your perspectives who are not Andrew Wilson fans, right? And I wouldn't call myself an Andrew Wilson fan either. But this strikes me as a sincere ask. He feels like he's putting a lot on the line. We don't know where the $300,000 has come from. If it has come out of his own pocket, that's a significant amount of money for someone like Andrew Wilson, who just based on his YouTube channel and other business ventures, that doesn't seem like chump change to him. But we don't know at this point where the money has come from. So there is a significant importance put on this, given the Charlie Kirk assassination, given where his family sits, trying to heal. And then we have Candace Owens, who doesn't believe the story that's playing out in court. And we're going to get into what we can predict with regards to the debate itself and what kind of points are going to be made by Candace and Andrew based on what's been said publicly to this point. So we'll do a bit of predicting today as well. I am currently putting Andrew's claims and points into a PDF right now so we can examine where the information Andrew has stated might contradict what we have found in our own fact-checking audit. So we'll be able to look at that. But first, let's go through our initial report here. And again, we're probably going to be updating some details as we learn more here today. So here's the fundraising numbers, but I have to move Andrew off the screen now. Goodbye, Andrew, until we see each other again. Put that there so you guys can see, nice and big. That's what she said. Here's where the numbers are at currently. The campaign stated disposition of funds. If the debate occurs, the campaign says funds will first reimburse Andrew for the personal money he put at risk. Isn't that $300,000? Any amount beyond that will support his continued efforts to challenge ideas through debate. If the debate does not occur, the campaign says up to $300,000 raised will go to benefit the children of Charlie and Erica Kirk. I think that's a good cause. I think they should benefit from something like this. I think this whole thing should not have been a money-making campaign for either Andrew Wilson or Candace Owens. I think Candace Owens should be able to realize that Charlie Kirk's children should benefit from anything with regards to this conversation or debate. Hopefully, Candace Owens does the right thing and donates this $300,000 to Charlie Kirk's children. I know she has disagreements and gripes with Erica Kirk, but Candace Owens should see the children as innocent here. That money should go to the children of Charlie Kirk, in my opinion. Same with anything that Andrew Wilson makes. This should not be a money-making venture, this conversation. It's literally like, yeah, they've been bickering online and they got to go get together and have a conversation. They're going to make a ton of money, off of the ad revenue, but these like appearance fees, this fundraising, like, and I understand it seems like the $300,000 was needed to get this done. Yeah. So I do also understand like the reason for the, I don't have a problem with Andrew Wilson creating a fundraiser like this to try and cover the financial burden of what he had to put up to make this conversation happen. There is a big opportunity here to squash misinformation and, a dangerous and very hurtful conspiracy theory. Is Andrew Wilson the right guy to do that? Is he going to be able to do that in a good faith, helpful way that bears fruit in that conversation? Or is this going to be a shit show of personal attacks where nothing of substance gets done or exposed? That remains to be seen, but we're going to see it. We're going to cover it as well. So what the fundraiser is and is not. So a unsupported misleading claim that's going around is Andrew needs the fundraiser to come up with the original $300,000. The campaign itself says he already put up $300,000 of his own money. Earlier crowdfunding discussion concerned the increased $500,000 per side phase. Publication safe wording. The fundraiser is presented as reimbursement if the debate occurs, not proof that the original $300,000 could not be supplied without donations. There's another qualified but misleading without condition claim. Quote, the fundraiser is raising $300,000 for Charlie Kirk's children. The Kirk children beneficiary clause applies if the debate does not take place. If it does, Wilson is reimbursed first. The campaign conditionally promises up to $300,000 for the Kirk children if the debate does not occur. We have an unsupported claim being made about the fundraiser. Claim, the Give, Send, Go is an independent escrow for the debate purse. The finding, the public page is a crowdfunding campaign stating intended uses. No public evidence reviewed shows Give, Send, Go acting as a debate-specific escrow agent or adjudicating the debate terms. So we should treat Give, Send, Go as the crowdfunding platform. Do not describe it as the debate escrow absent a separate escrow instrument. Let's look at fees. Displayed gross is not net cash. Give, Send, Go advertises 0% platform fees, but lists third-party processing fees of 2.7% plus 30 cents per donation for standard USD donations to a USD fundraiser. Non-USD donations to a USD fundraiser incur an additional 1% fee. On almost $50,000 gross, the 2.7 percentage component alone equals approximately $1,332.91. Ignoring the per donation 30 cents charges and any additional currency fees, the gross less only the percentage component would be approximately $48,034.09. Because the public campaign page does not expose a complete donation count/currency ledger, the exact net cannot be reproduced from public data. Transfer timing. Give, Send, Go states that the first donation becomes available for transfer after 5 days. Later donations on a 3-day rolling basis and processed transfers typically reach a bank within 2 to 3 business days. Consequently, the displayed, quote, raised amount is not equivalent to the amount already cleared, transferred, or sitting in Wilson's bank account. Double check something here. Financial hygiene. Any screenshot or commentary using the displayed $49,367 as, quote, cash Andrew has already received should be corrected. The public number is gross crowdfunding raised. Fees, settlement timing, currency effects, refunds, chargebacks, and actual payout status are separate variables. Public claim verification ledger. The following ledger rates common statements now circulating about the debate. It is intentionally narrower than a full misinformation audit of either participant. So what claim is supported with high confidence? Brian Atlas offered $50,000, later $60,000 for Owens to debate Wilson. There may actually also be further offers by Brian Atlas. That is something we will make sure we get audited correctly for the public report we release. We'll make sure that that's included. The claim that Wilson offered Owens $300,000 to debate. This is supported as an offer with high confidence. Wilson said on Joe Rogan Experience, the official episode is dated August 5th. Wilson publicly stated that he had offered Owens $300,000 to debate. Another supported claim, Owens countered with $500,000, winner take all. We've gone through that. And also the justifications are on the screen there, and we've already gone through this. What else is supported? This is secondary evidence preserved. So moderate confidence here that Wilson proposed $500,000 each / a $1 million total. What's unsupported? Misleading. High confidence that this particular claim is unsupported and misleading. Wilson needed, gotta say goodnight to my little boy. He's about to have his nap. Where is that boy? Okay. Okay, unsupported / misleading, high confidence. Wilson needed crowdfunding for his original $300,000. The active fundraiser says he already put up the $300,000. The crowdfunding dispute first arose around the escalated proposal. The public record does not establish that the original $300,000 depended on crowdfunding. So, and there is the claim that Wilson has sent $300,000 to Owens. This hasn't been independently verified. Turning Point USA supplied Wilson's $300,000. That's an unsupported claim. Make sure you smash that like button, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We're going to be going through this for a while here today. Supported at the cutoff, the active fundraiser has raised almost $50,000 toward the $300,000. Qualified but misleading. The claim the current fundraiser is simply for the Kirk children. The children receive the promised benefit only if the debate occurs, only if the debate does not occur. If it occurs, Wilson is reimbursed first. The Kirk children use is conditional on the debate not taking place. The final debate winner definitely receives $300,000. That is unresolved. No final contract or unambiguous joint statement reviewed fixes the disposition of the final $300,000 under every outcome. Joe Rogan agreed in principle to host moderate. That's strongly supported, as in principle offer, moderate to high confidence. Patrick Bet-David is the moderator. That's supported, high confidence. The debate is scheduled for Friday, August 14th, 2026, in just a few days. Strongly supported. What the debate is actually about. That reminds me, I'm going to prompt something while we are... So we will go through what the debate is likely going to look like from an evidentiary perspective, epistemic perspective, ethical perspective, etc. And eventually we will be able to see how close our prediction was. So what the debate is actually about. The proposition narrowed during negotiation. The public dispute began with a much broader fight over Owens' post-assassination investigation and Wilson's criticism of it. During negotiations, Wilson objected to a format in which Owens could merely attack weaknesses in the prosecution case without defending her own affirmative theories. I think that's a smart move brought by Wilson. Owens subsequently made an affirmative, quote, patsy position explicit in public commentary. The fairest current description is therefore not, quote, a debate over whether every prosecution claim is perfect. It is a debate over the strength of the evidence against Tyler Robinson and the competing contention that he was set up or framed, with wider claims about the assassination likely to enter through cross-examination. Why the burden of proof dispute matters. Attacking weaknesses in a prosecution case does not by itself prove an alternative conspiracy. Asserting an alternative conspiracy creates an affirmative evidentiary burden for the specific actors, mechanisms, and causal chain alleged. A debate can evaluate arguments but cannot substitute for a criminal court's evidentiary process or legal verdict. A participant can successfully show that an opponent overstates evidence without proving their own broader theory. Moderator and fact-checking architecture. Owens proposed live fact-checking teams. Wilson pushed for extended cross-examination. Michael Knowles was proposed and later declined. Patrick Bet-David is now the announced moderator. The current public materials establish the moderator more clearly than they establish the exact time controls, adjudication rules, or financial decisions. Separate the questions. There are at least three distinct adjunctive questions. Number one, what the prosecution evidence shows, whether Owens' affirmative alternative claims are supported, and whether either participant violated debate rules. None should silently determine the financial outcome unless the final agreement explicitly says so. I can close this window. So unresolved questions and evidence holds. Final $300,000 contract. We want to see like a signed agreement, escrow instructions, joint unambiguous terms, or authenticated payment documentation. Until obtained, do not describe the final $300,000 as a definite winner-take-all prize, appearance fee, charitable guarantee, or escrowed bet. I think the most plausible position at this point is that the $300,000 is a speaker fee for Candace Owens. Independent proof of the transfer. We haven't seen that yet. First direct challenge date. Secondary reporting says March 2026. Owens was later quoted saying Wilson had been requesting a debate since May. A primary March post/video with a stable timestamp is needed to lock the exact origin date. Rogan agreement. Both sides described Rogan as offering to host/moderate. A direct statement from Rogan or a preserved communication would upgrade this from strong bilateral reporting to a three-party primary record. Final rules and payout adjudicator. Who declares a winner, if anyone? Does a moderator verdict matter? Do fact checkers have binding authority? Are personal attacks a default loss condition? The public negotiation contains proposals, but the final executed rule book is not in the reviewed record, at least as of yet. Give, send, go beneficiary execution if the debate fails. The campaign states that up to $300,000 will benefit the Kirk children if the debate does not occur. The public campaign text does not itself disclose a dedicated trust, escrow, charity account, or independent enforcement mechanism for that contingency. That does not mean the promise is false. It means fulfillment would need later verification if triggered. So the Pangburn standard here, an unresolved financial mechanism is not evidence of fraud. The correct response to missing documentation is a hold/unresolved classification, not a leap to either trust or accusation. Okay, here's the publication safe narrative. Here we go. The Andrew Wilson Candace Owens debate did not begin with Wilson's August 5th appearance on Joe Rogan. Wilson had been publicly challenging Owens' Charlie Kirk claims for months. By July 5th, whatever host Brian Atlas had offered $50,000, later $60,000, and based on Andrew's claims, and we will check this, maybe even $100,000 or $150,000, to get Owens to debate Wilson. Wilson then publicized a separate $300,000 offer on the Joe Rogan Experience. Owens countered with a $500,000 proposal, and the negotiation briefly escalated into discussion of $500,000 per side before Owens rejected crowdfunding of the higher amount and returned to Wilson's original $300,000 figure. The debate is now publicly announced for Friday, August 14th, 2026, with Patrick Bet-David as moderator. Wilson says he has sent the $300,000 and that Owens' staff confirmed receipt. That claim has not been independently verified by a public bank record, wire confirmation, escrow statement, or final contract located in this review. Wilson's Give, Send, Go had raised $49,367 of a $300,000 goal at the report cutoff. The campaign says that if the debate occurs, donations first reimburse Wilson for his personal money at risk. If the debate does not occur, up to $300,000 raised will benefit the children of Charlie and Erica Kirk. Therefore, it is misleading either to describe the fundraiser simply as money Wilson needs to produce the original $300,000 or simply as a $300,000 fundraiser for the Kirk children. Both omit a material condition. The largest unresolved financial issue is the legal disposition of the final $300,000. The public record clearly documents the number, but not a complete payment instrument explaining who owns the money now, who receives it after the debate, whether a winner is formally adjudicated, and what conditions trigger return or forfeiture. Until that agreement is public, the most accurate description is a $300,000 debate arrangement or amount at risk, not a definitively verified winner-take-all purse. One paragraph bottom line, ready for publication. Andrew Wilson and Candace Owens are now scheduled to debate Friday, August 14th, that's in 2 days, with Patrick Bet-David moderating. The dispute grew from months of challenges into a $50,000, $60,000 third-party offer, which might have even got up to $100,000, $150,000. Wilson's separate $300,000 challenge, a brief $500,000, $1 million escalation, and finally a return to $300,000. Wilson says the $300,000 has been sent, but no independent public payment record or final contract was located. His active Give, Send, Go shows $49,367 raised towards $300,000 and says donations reimburse him first if the debate happens. If it does not, up to $300,000 is promised for Charlie Kirk children. The event itself is strongly supported. The final financial mechanism remains only partially transparent. What would change this report? Publication of the signed debate contract or escrow instructions, authenticated transfer/receipt documentation, a direct Rogan statement confirming his hosting offer and terms, a schedule or moderator change before August 14th, a change in the Give, Send, Go total, campaign language, payout structure, or beneficiary terms. So there's also a source and integrity register here. So let's see what happens when we click on open source. Okay, this goes straight to the Give, Send, Go account. Let's also look at top donors. Someone by the name of Matt Morse. Let's see who that is. Matt Morse has a YouTube channel. I believe this is the same Matt Morse. We'd maybe have to look a little deeper into that, but apparently a $15,000 donation. We can't verify definitively that that's Matt Morse. Father, husband, American chauvinist. Or maybe it's this Matt Morse. I help coaches, athletes, creators, and organizations make big moves. The Morse Report with Matt Morse. I think it's probably, it's most likely this gentleman, the Morse Report with Matt Morse. But, you know, we would have to verify that more. But I'm just curious. The quartering. They say, thanks, honey. My wifey's bringing me some food. The quartering says, screw Candace Owens. If you need any coffee brand coffee, can send all you need for the debate. We don't sell cigs, though. Sorry. This is for Charlie's kids and for the truth. Who's the quartering? Another YouTube channel with 2.1 million followers. A YouTube channel with a bearded guy. Okay. He expertly trolled them. Oh, okay. It looks like he's talking about Tim Pool trolling Candace Owens. Okay. That would make sense. Anonymous giver, $1,000, few $1,000. People calling Candace Owens a dumb C word. Okay. Let's go back down to the source and integrity register. By the way, this will be publicly available for anyone that is interested in being able to access this. So let's see. That's from Apple Podcasts. Hinduism Time talks about the $50,000 to $60,000 offer. So that's the current source. That's probably going to be updated. So yeah, there's the open source links here, and it has source 1 all the way to source 16 here. So source quality caution, source 1 to source 7 are the strongest sources for campaign terms, platform mechanics, and publication dates. But participant-owned records are not independent proof of self-serving financial claims. Source 8 to source 16 are used to reconstruct public social media negotiations. They should not be treated as independent confirmations when several articles derive from the same X post or video. A secondary article that introduces a venue/location detail not preserved in a primary record is not used to establish that detail in this report. The $49,367 snapshot should be rechecked immediately before any later publication or video narration. Adversarial self-audit and correction log, audit pass 1 chronology, checked that the July 50,000, 60,000 Atlas offer is not presented as Wilson's money. Okay. So this is the fail-safe checks. Great. Okay. Fantastic. Now what I want to do is open up our latest document. So this is just auditing Andrew Wilson's I'll have to switch windows for this. Okay. Have to just adjust this. We are auditing next the fundraiser video we just watched. to make sure the information in there is accurate, and maybe there's some information in that audit video that is more up to date and accurate with regards to some things. So let's take a look at this. So Andrew Wilson fundraising video forensic fact check. How closely does the August 11th crowdfunding appeal match the public record? The overall verdict is mostly accurate. 20 claims audited in that transcript. Financial core is still unresolved. Still some unresolved things. Ooh, and the fundraiser is now above $50,000. Document status. Publication ready as a time-bound fact check of Wilson's fundraising video. The report audits what the video says, not who will win the debate, and not the underlying Tyler Robinson criminal case. Claims are separated into public facts, private assertions, interference, rhetoric, and unresolved financial matters. Hello, everyone. Make sure you smash that like button. Smash it hard. We are getting up to date on what the hell is going on with regards to Andrew Wilson versus Candace Owens, which is sure to be a heavily publicized debate that seems to be, well, in 2 days, seems like that debate is going to happen. And it'll be moderated by Patrick Bet-David. And we just did the full fact check analysis and bringing us up to date on where everything is, getting the chronology straight. So now we're analyzing Andrew Wilson's fundraising campaign video and see how accurate that is compared to the public record. So executive assessment. Bottom line, Andrew Wilson's August 11th fundraising video is substantially aligned with the public record on the debate negotiations, but its most consequential fundraising assertion remains unverified. Wilson says he personally sent $300,000 and fulfilled his contract, yet the public evidence review does not independently establish the transfer, its source, or the final payment mechanism. I think it's quite plausible that this money has been sent and received by Candace Owens' team. If Andrew would have stated this publicly, it would have with all the back and forth that has been going on between them, it would have given Candace Owens a lot of fuel to say, you liar, you didn't send $300,000. So the lack of that kind of response, I think it's likely the case. It hasn't been demonstrated, but it's likely the case that money has been sent and received. The video's strongest factual sections concern the existence of the $300,000 challenge, Candace Owens' subsequent $500,000 counterproposal, and TPUSA related conditions. The later return to the original $300,000 figure at Owens' studio, Joe Rogan's intervention, and the appointment of Patrick Bet-David as moderator. Those elements are substantially corroborated by primary platform material and contemporaneous records. The largest evidentiary weakness is not an internal contradiction, but a provenance problem. Wilson's video says he sent $300,000. Wilson's own Give, Send, Go says he put up $300,000 of his own money. Those statements are mutually consistent, but they are not independent confirmations of the underlying transaction. Several secondary claims overreach. The video's $100,000, and this is something that's not consistent with our report, so we want to do a deeper check to see if this is actually the case. Several secondary claims overreach. The video's $100,000 to $150,000 Brian Atlas history is not fully independently documented. Quote, her home is stronger than the verified public term. Quote, her studio. Quote, her stated goal to destroy TPUSA was not substantiated as an explicit Owens statement, and describing, I mean, that's more of a normative opinion, that last one, and describing TPUSA as effectively the only conservative organization in Wilson's lifetime to gain a foothold in academia is historically untenable given much older campus organizations. So I do want to see I'm going to see if I can find, just by going about this more traditionally. Owens debate. Brian Atlas, first. Let's see if we can find those. Oh, look at the images here. Candace Owens, I will bump my offer to $70,000. Okay, and this it looks like this is legitimate. So I will bump my offer up to $70,000 to debate Andrew Wilson on my podcast. Man, I swear I responded at some point to an offer, and I said that this is silly. What did I say? Scroll, scroll, scroll. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Where is it? Oh, okay. And I'm going to go to Brian Atlas's actual X page here. And I said, after Brian Atlas said, $200,000 is the total offer to Candace Owens if you include people who offered to match. Okay, so I'm looking at the chain here. So actually, I can give you guys. I'll make sure you guys can see this too. Oh, this is in a different. So $200,000. Hopefully, you guys can see that. I need to make it a bit. $200,000 is the total offer. So it looks like it got up to $200,000. I think in Andrew's transcript, let me just double check. The video's $100,000 to $150,000. So Andrews is incorrect as well. It looks like there's been a lot of offers from Brian Atlas here. $200,000 is the total offer to Candace Owens if you include people who offered to match, contribute. Why isn't this loading? Oh, I'm not logged in on this. I should just do a different window share here. Okay, let's do this so you guys can see my actual X window. Window capture. Let's do another one. X, Google Chrome. There we go. Doop. Doop, 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 doop. There we go. I just wanted to get on the record. I had said something. I kind of just remembered that I had said something. I think it's along the lines of, can you imagine spending this much money on this conversation? But I think in my statement, here's what I say. I say, imagine spending this amount of money for a low-resolution Candace Owens versus Andrew Wilson debate. Yikes. You can build 4 medium-sized schools in Uganda for that. Evidence of losing the plot here. Plot right here. I think after examining this, the opportunity here more closely, I think what is most ethical here is the $200,000 offer by Brian Atlas should have not been a fee to Candace Owens, but it should have been a $200,000 raised amount of money, however it's raised, to Charlie Kirk's children. It should have been about raising money for Charlie Kirk's children, this debate. So all of this money right off the start should be about that, not Candace Owens needing a fee for this, not Andrew Wilson needing a fee for this particular topic. This is about the assassination of their dad. All of this conversation shouldn't have been about, like, Candace Owens then demanding $500,000. She should have demanded $500,000 for Charlie Kirk's children. Like, we're talking about something that's going to, obviously they've picked a day just a couple days away. They're already prepared for this. They just have to spend time out of their day, traveling maybe the day before, doing the debate. I mean, really, we're talking about a few days of extra work here to raise money for the children. All of this should have been about the children making money, not these people who already have lots of money making money. Like, this shouldn't be a money-making opportunity, this particular thing. And even if, like, let's say at Pangburn, if we were to put this on stage, I think the right thing to do would be all net proceeds go to the children. That's not saying, like, Andrew and Candace Owens shouldn't be paid for their time if they need it, but they're also going to be able to make content where they make ad revenue from this stuff eventually. So yeah, I think all of this, like, big money talk should have been directed towards, I think that bothered me. And yeah, it is true that I think a Candace Owens Andrew Wilson debate will produce, from a philosophical standpoint, from a epistemic rigor standpoint, to from a moral well-beingist standpoint, I think it's going to produce a low resolution discussion. I hope I'm wrong. Hopefully the fact checking and all this stuff helps. Hopefully there are rules to keep them from just like monkeys throwing feces at each other. Hopefully it's not something like that. Hopefully it's not something akin to McDonald's level diet, or even worse, McDonald's dumpster diving level diet intellectual content. Hopefully it transcends that. But yeah, you can build 4 medium-sized schools in Uganda for that. That's true, because we're currently engaged in setting up a project like this. So, yeah, I hope I'm wrong about this. I do see the importance, though, I should say, of somebody taking Candace Owens' conspiracy theory to task here. I see the importance in that. And I recognize how much that could be hurting Charlie Kirk fans and family that Candace Owens is carrying on about this. Yeah, I mean, that's also a it doesn't matter if Charlie Kirk's kids are poor or not, given the circumstances of the assassination of their father. I can see very good reasons from a perspective of, these are children that don't get to grow up with a father anymore, where they could require more resources than they would have required had their father still been alive, and this directly relates to them. There are, of course, other causes that this money could go towards, other important causes. Like I outline, in sub-Saharan Africa, we could be building 4 medium-sized schools as opposed to getting Candace Owens and Andrew Wilson to have a low-resolution debate. Hopefully it transcends that. Hopefully. Let's go back to what we are currently fact-checking. Okay. So it looks like the Brian Atlas. I'm going to get my system for the final report to do a deeper analysis on Brian Atlas's X page to make sure we get those exact numbers right. Because there was eventually a $200,000 offer there. So the headline findings, core negotiation chronology is substantially supported from Andrew in his fundraising video. Most major steps match the public record. We still have an unresolved $300,000 transfer. The source of the $300,000 is unresolved. Fundraiser purpose supported with context. Turning Point USA, quote, only foothold claim. That was false and overstated by Andrew. YAF and college Republicans long predate Turning Point USA on campuses. The overall video is mostly accurate. High chronology alignment, but a major financial hold prevents stronger grading. These are our methodology and evidence controls that we went through earlier. What does supported mean? What does qualified mean? What does unresolved mean? What does unsupported mean? Etc. We have the evidence hierarchy here, same as before. We have the primary source record, which is the direct transcript from Andrew's video. Key source quotations. We have, I went ahead and sent the $300,000. I have already sent Candace the $300,000 and fulfilled my end of the contract with her. It's obvious her stated goal is to destroy the largest conservative college and high school outreach program currently in existence. The only organization in my life to really get a foothold in academia. So here's the forensic claim ledger. We'll go through what's unresolved. So Atlas offered $100,000. It seems like Atlas offered $100,000 and more. Just sequentially, different numbers were being offered. So we will make sure that that's resolved in our final audit, our final report. The rest of this is good. Wilson sent $300,000 unresolved because we don't have the receipts for this. Owen staff confirmed the payment to Wilson's side. That's unresolved. It's most likely the case that Owen staff did receive the money. It would most likely be the case that Candace Owens would be sounding off about that claim that her team had, or that her team hadn't received the $300,000 if they hadn't received it. Andrew's claim about destroying TPUSA is Owen's stated goal. That's unsupported. No explicit Owens statement establishing that stated objective has been located. TPUSA is the largest conservative college high school outreach program. That's qualified and plausible. TPUSA claims 3,500 plus campuses and largest youth organization status, but competing groups use different largest definitions. TPUSA is effectively the only organization in Wilson's lifetime to gain a conservative foothold in academia. This is false and overstated. YAF has 60 plus years and 2,000 plus campus contacts. College Republicans dates to 1892. College Republicans dates to 1892. So those would be organizations that have a foothold in academia. Obviously, that's a just opinion by Andrew Wilson, but I think he's overstating and that opinion, and it's false. Multitudes of millions of dollars are on the line for these creators. That's unsupported. No named creators, revenue records, denominator, or calculation are supported. So another unresolved claim: many creators are private individuals private individuals offered to help with the financial burden. That's unresolved. It's plausible, but private contact claim cannot be independently tested from the public record. So it might be the case. Did Wilson actually send $300,000? This is the most consequential fact in the fundraising appeal because it changes the economic story from, quote, help me raise money so I can pay, to I already absorbed the costs, help reimburse me. Wilson states the payment twice in the source transcript, including the stronger at 5 minutes and 8 seconds in the video formulation, that he had already sent Candace $300,000 and fulfilled his end of the contract. The give, send, go is consistent with that story. It says Andrew, quote, put up $300,000 of his own money, and that if the debate occurs, donations will first reimburse Andrew for the personal money he has put at risk. That doesn't mean he has actually sent the $300,000 or it's been received. We don't have those receipts, but I do think it's likely the case. It is plausible that this money has been sent and Candace Owens' team has received it. There's an evidentiary hold here, of course. This just supplies a more up-to-date, as of 30 minutes ago, of the give, send, go forensic audit. We've already gone through that. A separate public clip preserves Wilson stating that Atlas put up $150,000 and that Wilson would match it on neutral ground. That makes the $150,000 figure internally consistent across Wilson's public statements, but it is still not independent Atlas side confirmation. Ryan Atlas, Candace Owens. Oh, that post's unavailable. Okay, I'm going through the chain here. Offering $50,000 to Candace Owens to debate Andrew Wilson on my podcast. Happy to discuss terms, bring in additional moderator, etc. So that was $50,000. And then we have, it seems as it was bumped up to $60,000, and then $100,000 to Candace Owens to debate Andrew Wilson on my podcast. Final offer. Do you accept? Final offer is never a final offer, is it? Now $200,000 is the total offer to Candace Owens if you include people who offered to match / contribute. So it actually seems like it reached up to $200,000. Ryan Atlas, Candace Owens. Well, we will do a deeper dive, but for the record, it does seem like it got up to $200,000 from Brian Atlas. That's what I'm seeing on my screen on his X account here. So not up to $150,000 like Andrew Wilson says in his video. It got up to $200,000, it seems. So a plausible escalation is $50,000 to $60,000, $100,000 to $150,000. and then to 200,000. So Turning Point USA claims rhetoric and personal attacks. Let's take a look at that. What up, everyone? Make sure you smash that like button. We are just getting all the information together with what's going on between Andrew Wilson versus Candace Owens debate that looks like it's going to happen in a couple days here. We will be doing a full forensic analysis of that debate when it becomes available. We might even do it on the fly. I am interested to see how accurate these so-called fact checkers during the discussion will actually be. Actively Impressive says, this looks like classic Israel. Please no. God, no. Turning Point USA claims rhetoric and personal attacks. We are still adjudicating, auditing Andrew Wilson's transcript from his fundraising video that he just dropped. So, quote, the only foothold in academia claim. Wilson's strongest straightforward factual overstatement in his description of TPUSA as effectively the only organization in his lifetime to gain a conservative foothold in academia. TPUSA was founded in 2012 and reports presence on 3,500 plus campuses. Yet Young America's Foundation reports more than 60 years of history and contacts on 2,000 plus campuses, while College Republicans traces its national organization to 1892. Wilson could plausibly argue that TPUSA achieved a distinctive scale, style, media footprint, or level of cultural influence. The narrower claim is debatable. The categorical, quote, only organization to really get a foothold wording is not historically defensible as a factual statement. The, quote, stated goal problem. Wilson says it is obvious that Owens' quote stated goal is to destroy Turning Point USA. Those are different epistemic categories. A stated goal requires an identifiable statement, and quote obvious goal is an inference about motive. The evidence reviewed supports sustained Owens' criticism of Turning Point USA, but not the stronger attribution that destroying Turning Point USA is her explicitly stated objective. Hopefully, Andrew Wilson in this debate will be more precise, not hallucinate into motive attribution or mind reading, the kinds of things that would lead this to be a low resolution debate that lacks academic, epistemic, ethical rigor. Hopefully it doesn't move in that direction. Personal attacks recorded separately in this video. So even in this video, we have lunatic left, which is just simply an ideological insult generalization. Candace Owens cult, derogatory characterization. Sycophantic and cult-like following, derogatory generalization. Terrorizing the widow, evaluative/moral characterization. Quote, her sick fans, personal attacks on supporters. Quote, they will stop at nothing, hyperbolic motive attribution. Mind reading. Quote, no control, you see. Motive inference about Owens. Another motive inference, mind reading. These phrases are not automatically counted as misinformation. They are recorded because Penguin Analysis tracks personal attacks and because some rhetoric contains embedded factual assertions. Quote, her stated goal and multitudes of millions of dollars, for example, became rateable once they asserted external facts. Andrew Wilson needs to get out of the habit of motive attribution. It's causing him to remain in the low resolution space with regards to debaters who should be taken academically serious or philosophically serious or scholarly, serious in a scholarly manner. You need to stop making these mistakes. I know it can be entertaining for some people to hear these kinds of, personal attacks, but you need to move away from that if you want to be taken seriously, I think, on the global stage and transcend like the blood sport debate world. How closely does Andrew Wilson's fundraising video match the facts? We kind of went through this earlier, but here's the material weighted scorecard. So we have finding, assessment, and why it matters. Negotiation chronology has high alignment. Owens counter offers / venue, high alignment with qualification. Rogan intervention, moderator, fundraiser structure all have high alignment. The $300,000 transfer is insufficiently verified. The $300,000 provenance is insufficiently verified. So we'd want to see more information that is actually, that the money actually has been received. Again, I think it's most plausible that it has been. Turning Point USA history. This is there's a mixed assessment here. Scale claim is plausible. Quote, only foothold claim overstates the history. Motive / money at stake rhetoric. This is the weakest when it comes to factual basis. Several claims are unsupported, private, or not rateable due to them just being personal attacks. So now we're at the publication safe finding. Andrew Wilson's August 11th fundraising video closely matches the public record on most of the Wilson-Owens debate negotiations. Owens did respond to his $300,000 challenge with a $500,000 proposal and Turning Point USA related condition. The negotiations later returned to the original $300,000 figure at Owens' studio. Joe Rogan did offer to facilitate the debate, and Patrick Bet-David is now publicly announced as a moderator. However, Wilson's most important fundraising assertion, that he personally sent $300,000 and thereby fulfilled the payment terms, remains supported principally by Wilson and his own fundraiser. Penguin Analysis located no independent bank record, escrow, confirmation, final contract, or direct recipient acknowledgement proving the transfer or the source of the funds. The video also overreaches when it calls destroying Turning Point USA Owens's stated goal, describes Turning Point USA as effectively the only conservative organization in Wilson's lifetime to gain a campus foothold, and asserts without documentation that, quote, multitudes of millions of dollars are at stake for unnamed creators. There's a adversarial self-audit at the end here too. The adversarial self-audit is really trying to nitpick to find where there might be mistakes in the audit. This helps inform the next version of the audit. So things like transcript integrity. The obscured line near 139 is excluded from exact quotation rather than reconstructed. Financial provenance. Wilson side repetition is not treated as independent corroboration. Things like this. Correction threshold. Unresolved findings are preferred where public evidence cannot establish truth or falsity. And here's the source register at the end. Okay, now We're going to have a little fun. Someone says, I hate my username. Thank you so much for the super chat. Says, a huge far left racist YouTuber, FD Signifier, has made a Palestine video. He defends Hamas, opposes Israel's existence. Could be good for a fact check. I am going to save your comment and I'm going to take a look. FD Signifier. I'm going to send this to my lovely Don Don, just so I don't lose it. Don Don, if you're listening, I just sent you a note. Okay, so we got through that. Now what we're going to do is look at... Oh, wait. No, sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. Now we are going to look at a predictive document from the Pangburn analysis system, where we're going to predict a lot of the things that are almost certainly going to happen in the debate. I want to make sure you guys can see that. This can act as a debate preview and evidence forecast. Please smash that like button on the stream if you are enjoying this. It really helps spread the word. Also, if you're on X, if you want to get more people involved in this conversation, I also put out an X post for people to share. If you're on X and you could hit the repost button on that post, that would be great. 2-second bathroom break, and then we will look at the Andrew Wilson versus Candace Owens debate preview plus evidence forecast. I'm also going to send a quick DM from my other account. Ooh. There we go. All right, everyone, let's go through this. Okay. Pangburn analysis. Andrew Wilson versus Candace Owens debate preview plus evidence forecast. What each side is likely to argue, what evidence actually exists, where the factual pressure points are, and the best pre-debate prediction. So apparently this is going to happen August 14th in 2 days. Patrick, Bet, David will moderate. The evidence edge, the pre-debate evidence edge is going to Wilson. The consensus odds, low Both likely will claim victory. This is a pre-debate analytical forecast, not a verdict on Tyler Robinson's criminal guilt, and not a claim to know what either debater will say. The prediction is based on the current public debate terms, each side's recent public framing, the official charging record, and evidence aired at the preliminary hearing. New authenticated evidence could materially change the forecast. Executive forecast. Bottom line, if the debate remains centered on the proposition that the presently available evidence is more consistent with Tyler Robinson being the shooter than with Robinson being set up as a federal patsy, Andrew Wilson enters with the stronger evidentiary position. Candace Owens has several legitimate lines of attack against overstatement of the state's case, especially inconclusive bullet fragment ballistics, limits of surveillance identification, and the probabilistic nature of mixed DNA evidence. But those weaknesses do not by themselves establish a federal setup. Her hardest task is affirmative, moving from anomalies or investigative gaps to reliable evidence that federal actors framed Robinson. The most likely substantive outcome is not Owens has nothing versus, quote, the state case is airtight. The more defensible forecast is asymmetric. Wilson is likely to show that multiple partially independent evidence streams converge on Robinson, while Owens is likely to show that some popular presentations of the case have been more certain than the underlying forensic record warrants. The decisive question will be whether she can bridge the gap into a positive patsy theory. The most likely rhetorical outcome is much closer. Owens has spent months developing a narrative ecosystem around video anomalies, witness inconsistencies, institutional distrust, Turning Point USA, and federal conduct. She is likely to generate strong clips by isolating uncertainties. Wilson is likely to perform better when he can force atomic claims, define burdens, and demand a causal mechanism for the alleged setup. Pre-debate prediction matrix. We're going to go issue, assessment, and why it matters. Strength of current documented evidence on the narrow proposition. Wilson advantage high. The stateside case contains, well, I'm going to zoom in a little more on this because of my eyes. The stateside case condition, can you guys still see everything? Oop, I need to widen now. There we go. Okay. The stateside case contains surveillance, rifle recovery, DNA, alleged emissions, family recognition, surrender, and corroborating detail. Owens' strongest public case presently targets reliability and gaps rather than supplies a verified federal framing mechanism. Formal cross-examination / burden control. Wilson advantage high. Wilson's likely best strategy is to separate, quote, the state overstates X from, quote, therefore federal agents framed Robinson. Narrative control / memorable clips. Owens advantage medium to high. Owens has greater incentive and experience in packaging anomalies into an accessible story and is debating from her own long-running investigative frame. Home field / production familiarity. Owens advantage medium. The debate is expected at Owens's studio. This can affect pacing and comfort, though Patrick Bet-David moderation reduces pure home field control. Chance of a clean consensus winner, low. The sides operate with different standards of proof, and audiences are highly polarized. Most likely Pangburn post-debate verdict if no new evidence appears. Wilson stronger on narrow evidentiary burden. Owens can plausibly win several sub-issues without establishing the stronger, quote, federal patsy proposition. What is actually being debated? The proposition has two layers. Owens has publicly framed her side as the claim that on the facts disclosed so far, there is more evidence Robinson was set up as a patsy than evidence that he committed the crime. Wilson's public response is that the evidence is more compelling that Robinson was the lone shooter and was not set up by federal actors. The negotiations also show a dispute about whether the event is merely a critique of the state's evidence or also a cross-examination of Owens' own affirmative assassination claims. Critical burden distinction. Three propositions are not equivalent. 1, the state has weaknesses. 2, the state has not proven guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And 3, there is more evidence of a federal frame-up than of Robinson being the shooter. Owens can establish 1 or even argue 2 without establishing 3. Wilson's strongest path is to keep these burdens separate. Expected format: in-person debate at Owens' studio under the latest publicly described arrangement. Patrick Bet-David publicly announced as moderator. Owens publicly said there should be no fixed time limit and that the discussion can continue beyond roughly 3.5 hours, 3.5 hours if necessary. Wilson requested meaningful cross-examination of Owens' claims and proposed a no personal attacks rule. It is not clear that every requested enforcement mechanism survives into the final format. I think that's a great rule. There should be a no personal attacks rule in that, I mean, that's consistent with Pangburnian communication that governs the Pangburn stage. Good faith and helpfulness are the minimum requirements for a fruitful dialectic. So that's what the Pangburn stage calls for. Personal attacks would be a violation of helpfulness. So that's good. Hopefully that is upheld. That gives us a higher chance to bear fruit, a higher chance for this to reach a level of from low resolution into the medium resolution, or even in the best case scenario, a high resolution debate and conversation. Both camps have discussed live fact-checking teams. The practical influence of those teams will depend on whether the moderator pauses for verification or merely allows competing citations. Hopefully, the fact checkers are competent. My experience so far, people who claim to be doing fact checking with regards to really any issues online are not doing the best job of this. They're not removing their own negativity and positivity bias and just delivering the information. They're lensing the facts. There will be like that kernel of truth. There will be that fact, but then the fact gets lost in that positivity and negativity bias lensing. So hopefully the fact checking will be done correctly. If they need me to fly down and provide fact checking for this debate, I would be happy to do it. But I doubt both of them would trust a left-wing atheist. Center-left, I should say, atheist. Because all we do is apparently barbecue and eat babies. Okay, make sure you guys smash that like button if you haven't done it yet. I really appreciate that. It helps spread the stream around. Okay. Evidence map, what Wilson is likely to build. Wilson's best case is cumulative. He does not need every individual item to be decisive if several partially independent streams point in the same direction. The prosecution's charging information is an allegation document, not a judgment of guilt, but much of its evidence has since been aired or tested in preliminary hearing proceedings. Surveillance sequence. Pre-debate strength. Strong with identity limits. Unaltered footage was admitted. Investigators describe a person arriving in a charger linked to Robinson, later returning in different clothes but same shoes, climbing to the roof and leaving after the shot toward woods. The rooftop figure is not a clean facial identification. Rifle recovery / escape path. Pre-debate strength, strong. We're going evidence stream, pre-debate strength, and important qualifications. So the pre-debate strength for the rifle recovery, escape path, strong. Police say a bolt action, 30-06 rifle, wrapped in a towel, was found in the woods along the suspected escape path with 1 spent and 3 unspent rounds. DNA on rifle / ammunition / towel. Pre-debate strength, strong but probabilistic. ATF testimony said samples strongly support Robinson as a major contributor. Some items contain mixed DNA, and experts properly avoid saying a DNA result absolutely proves who handled an object at a particular time. Alleged note and roommate texts. Very strong if authentic / complete. Charging record describes a note and messages in which Robinson allegedly admits the shooting and references retrieving his rifle and engraved rounds. The defense can attack authenticity, context, completeness, or witness handling, but the content is unusually specific. Roommate oral account. Strong but witness dependent. Twiggs told prosecutors Robinson later confirmed the shooting and expressed regret. Twiggs received immunity, which is a legitimate credibility point for cross-examination. Family recognition / surrender. Moderate to strong. Charging record says Robinson's parents recognized the released image, his father recognized the rifle, and family / friend intervention preceded surrender. These are prosecution allegations until adjudicated. Ballistics, bullet fragment, weak / inconclusive. ATF testimony said the fragment recovered from Kirk's body could not be conclusively tied to the suspected rifle. This is a genuine defense point and should not be called a mismatch. Political motive, contested / secondary. Texts allegedly include, quote, had enough of his hatred, but the defense says broader device searches did not establish a developed political motive. Motive is less important to shooter identity than to enhancements and death penalty issues. Wilson's likely argument architecture. Number 1, convergence beats isolated anomaly. Expect Wilson to argue that Owens repeatedly evaluates one piece at a time, a blurry roof image, an inconclusive bullet fragment, another person's DNA, an odd gate, while ignoring the joint probability of the whole record. His likely refrain will be that no single item needs to, quote, prove the case if surveillance, rifle recovery, DNA, alleged admissions, family recognition, and surrender cross-corroborate one another. The alleged admissions contain specific corroborating details. The The charging information says the roommate received a note and messages in which Robinson allegedly claimed responsibility, discussed a rifle left at a drop point, referred to his grandfather's rifle, and mentioned engraved ammunition. Wilson will likely argue that details later corresponding to the recovered rifle and ammunition are harder to dismiss as generic post-event chatter. Number 3, DNA is not a television, quote, match, but it is still powerful. Wilson should be strongest if he states the forensic evidence conservatively, or let's look at that one again. Wilson should be strongest if he states the forensic evidence conservatively. Witnesses testified that relevant DNA profiles are vastly more likely under models, including Robinson, than under unknown person alternatives, with some samples mixed. That is powerful inclusion evidence, but it does not by itself establish when or why DNA was deposited. Inconclusive ballistics is not exculpatory. Wilson will almost certainly emphasize that, quote, inconclusive means the bullet fragment cannot be attributed to or excluded from the rifle with adequate confidence. Owens can fairly use this to rebut claims of a conclusive projectile to rifle match. She cannot fairly translate it into, quote, the rifle was disproven as the murder weapon. The patsy theory needs a mechanism. This may be Wilson's decisive cross-examination lane. Who framed Robinson? Which evidence was planted or fabricated? Who authored the alleged text and note? How did the rifle, DNA, family statements, vehicle surveillance sequence, and surrender come to align? What reliable evidence links the relevant fabrication to federal actors? If Owens cannot answer at the mechanism level, Wilson can argue that suspicion has been substituted for an explanatory model. Let's look at Owens' likely argument architecture. Owens' recent programming has concentrated on, quote, holes in the Robinson narrative. Purportedly, new rooftop campus imagery, witness and institutional inconsistencies, the visibility of the weapon, and the claim that the preliminary hearing weakened the media's, quote, overwhelming evidence framing. The exact exhibits she will bring are unknown. The following is a forecast based on her public emphasis, not an assertion that each claim is valid. Number 1 for Owens, rooftop identification and, quote, where is the rifle? Expect Owens to replay surveillance and argue that the rooftop subject is not facially identifiable, that the weapon is not consistently visible, and that the state's interpretation of gait or concealed rifle movement is inferential. The defense successfully objected to an edited surveillance version with added circle/zoom on bias grounds, after which prosecutors use unaltered footage. The procedural win gives Owens a legitimate cautionary point about visual persuasion. Number 2, DNA mixtures, transfer, and probabilistic language. Owens is likely to emphasize that DNA was mixed on some items and that Twiggs' DNA also appeared on evidence. She may stress expert acknowledgments of human error and the fact that likelihood ratio testimony does not mean, quote, this person definitely touched this object during the crime. Those are valid forensic cautions. Her weak point will be if she treats the presence of Twiggs' DNA as affirmative evidence that Twiggs was the shooter without a comparative transfer/context analysis. the bullet fragment result. This is probably Owens' cleanest courtroom-derived fact. Testing of the fragment recovered from Kirk's body was inconclusive. She can accurately attack anyone who described it as a conclusive ballistics match. The inference from, quote, conclusively matched to, quote, therefore the recovered rifle was planted or unrelated would require additional evidence. Twiggs' immunity and credibility. Owens can fairly argue that an immunized witness deserves careful scrutiny, particularly when the witness supplies incriminating oral statements and participates in the chain of evidence. Wilson will answer with that immunity does not itself falsify the messages and that the alleged admissions contain details that can be checked against physical evidence. Motive and investigative gaps. The latest defensive filing disputes the political motive enhancement and says device searches produced little beyond one alleged, quote, hatred statement. Owens may use that to argue the public narrative about motive. Let's look at that again. Owens may use that to argue the public narrative about motive outran the record. That can succeed about how motive outran the record, it should say. That can succeed as a critique of motive certainty while leaving shooter identity largely untouched. Federal/institutional distrust as the bridge. Owens is likely to place anomalies within a broader narrative of FBI, government, TPUSA, or elite misconduct. This can be rhetorically powerful, but it is precisely where Pangburn standards require the strongest provenance firewall. Prior institutional misconduct or contradictory messaging is not by itself evidence that officials framed Robinson in this case. The 8 decisive clashes. So we'll go clash, Wilson likely case, Owen likely case, and Pangburn pre-debate assessment. The clash, burden. Separate, quote, state has gaps from feds framed him, demand affirmative mechanism. This is what Wilson will be Wilson's likely case. And then Owen's likely case will be argue the prosecution/media burden is overstated and anomalies collectively make a patsy explanation more plausible. In the Pangburn pre-debate assessment, most important clash, Wilson advantage if proposition stays narrow. Then we got surveillance. Wilson, continuous behavioral/vehicle/clothing sequence is cumulative identity evidence. Owens, no facial ID on roof, weapon visibility, and gate interpretations are disputable. Edited footage risk. The Pangburn assessment, Wilson has stronger cumulative case. Owens has valid caution points. Rifle. Wilson, recovered on escape path with spent/unspent engraved rounds and Robinson-linked DNA. Owens, challenge chain of custody, visibility before recovery, and whether the rifle is independently tied to the fatal projectile. Pangburn assessment, Wilson advantaged unless Owens produces new authenticated chain evidence. DNA. Wilson, very large likelihood ratios support inclusion, multiple evidence surfaces. Owens' likely case, mixed profiles, Twiggs DNA, transfer/human error possibilities, statistics are not absolute ID. Pangburn assessment, Wilson advantage if he avoids overstating the science. Ballistics. Wilson, inconclusive fragment neither proves nor excludes rifle. Other evidence carries case. Owens, no conclusive bullet to rifle match. Public, quote, overwhelming narrative oversold. So Pangburn assessment, Owens wins this sub-issue if Wilson claims a match. Texts/note, Wilson, specific admissions and non-public details self-corroborate physical evidence. Owens, attack authentication, completeness, context, device custody, and reliance on twigs. Pangburn assessment, potentially decisive for Wilson if authenticity survives scrutiny. Twigs, Wilson, immunity is a credibility issue, not a substitute for contrary evidence. Owens, immunity and Twiggs DNA create incentive/alternative suspect questions. Pangburn assessment, Owens can create doubt, affirmative shooter inference remains harder. And then number 8 for clashes, federal setup. Wilson, ask for names, acts, planted evidence, causal chain, and direct federal link. Owens, use anomalies, alleged hidden footage, inconsistent witnesses, and institutional conduct to infer orchestration. Pangburn assessment, current public record strongly favors Wilson on affirmative burden question. Likely cross-examination questions. Someone asked, why are people giving her conspiracy theories such a large platform? Well, I think it relates to the impact that Charlie Kirk had and the Charlie Kirk assassination had, and the continued impact these conspiracy theories are having on the public zeitgeist in relation to this case. It seems to be quite widespread, and I think there are a lot of people's well-being being harmed by Candace Owens' conspiracy theories. That's why this is a popular issue. Likely cross-examination questions. Wilson's highest value questions for Owens. What is the single strongest authenticated piece of evidence that a federal actor framed Robinson as opposed to evidence that the state's case has a weakness? Which specific item do you allege was planted or fabricated? The rifle, DNA, texts, note, surveillance, family statements, or all of them? If the alleged texts are fake or manipulated, what is the evidence of fabrication? And how do you explain their specific references to the rifle and engraved rounds? What mechanism explains Robinson's surrender and the charging record account that his parents recognized him and the rifle? Does inconclusive ballistics mean the recovered rifle was excluded? If not, what positive inference follows from the result? What DNA proposition are you making? That Robinson was not a contributor, that his DNA was transferred innocently, or that the samples were fabricated? How does Twiggs' DNA on shared or handled items establish that Twiggs committed the shooting? What would falsify your Patsy hypothesis? Let's look at Owen's highest value questions for Wilson. Can you identify Robinson's face in the rooftop footage itself rather than infer identity from a sequence of clothing, movement, and vehicle evidence? Where is the rifle visibly and unambiguously shown before or during the shot in the unaltered surveillance record? Do you agree the bullet fragment recovered from Kirk's body did not conclusively match the recovered rifle? Do you agree mixed DNA and likelihood ratios do not prove who handled an object at the time of the shooting? Why is Twig's DNA on relevant evidence not more significant? And how should his immunity affect confidence in his account? What independent authentication establishes the alleged messages end note beyond law enforcement / prosecution presentation? Why did the defense succeed in excluding the visually enhanced / annotated surveillance version, and what claims were made publicly from that version? If the evidence is, quote, overwhelming, which single evidence stream could be removed without changing your conclusion, and how many weaknesses can accumulate before your confidence should fall? We also have a live fact check watch list here. Most likely misinformation failure mode. Both sides can lose accuracy by turning a qualified fact into an absolute. Watch for, quote, DNA proves, quote, ballistics matched, quote, ballistics disproved, quote, there is no gun, quote, the roof video clearly identifies Robinson, quote, Twig's DNA proves he did it, quote, the defense conceded Robinson was the shooter. Each formulation exceeds what the cited record presently establishes. So the claim, the bullet matched the rifle. This is high risk false. ATF testimony described the relevant bullet fragment comparison as inconclusive. The bullet did not come from that rifle. High risk false, overstatement. Inconclusive is not an exclusion. Quote, DNA proves Robinson fired the rifle, overstated. DNA strongly supports inclusion on items. It does not by itself establish firing, timing, or exclusive handling. Quote, the DNA was weak / meaningless because it was mixed. That's overstated. Some reported likelihood ratios were extremely large in models including Robinson. Mixture complicates interpretation but does not erase evidentiary weight. The rooftop video facially identifies Robinson. That's unsupported, as stated. The public reporting describes identification through movement sequence, clothing, shoes, vehicle, and investigator inference, not a clear facial ID on the roof. No rifle appears anywhere in the evidence. That would be overbroad. The official record says a rifle-shaped item is seen after the shot, and a rifle was recovered on the suspected escape path. Whether every visual interpretation is secure is a separate question. Twiggs had immunity, therefore he lied. That's an obvious invalid inference. Immunity is relevant to credibility and incentive. It is not proof of false testimony. The defense now admits Robinson was the shooter. That's unsupported. The last filing focuses on capital eligibility and motive and does not offer an alternative assassination theory. That is not the same as a factual or legal admission of guilt. The defense presented a federal patsy theory in court, not supported by latest AP summary. So once again, the claim the defense presented a federal patsy theory in court. That's not supported by latest AP summary. AP says the defense challenged reliability, but did not offer an alternative assassination theory during the preliminary hearing. Then we're going to move on to what the actual defense strategy tells us and what it does not. What the actual defense strategy tells us and what it does not. The defense's courtroom strategy is relevant because it is the adversarial legal team with direct access to discovery, experts, and evidentiary procedures. During the preliminary hearing, it attacked DNA reliability, the bullet fragment ballistics, edited surveillance, admissibility, witness presentation, political motive, and whether investigators sufficiently explored another perpetrator. As of the latest AP report, the defense did not present an alternative assassination theory during the hearing, and its newest filing attacks capital eligibility and political motive rather than asserting a federal frame-up. Do not overread this. The defense's choice do not prove Owens is wrong and do not constitute a concession that Robinson is the shooter. Lawyers may reserve theories, pursue threshold motions, avoid prejudicing a jury, or focus on the legal issue before the court. The limited inference is narrower. The public courtroom record currently supplies more developed support for challenges to particular state evidence than for an affirmative federal patsy mechanism. Debate dynamics, where each side is strongest. Andrew Wilson, best when the conversation is atomized into one proposition at a time, likely to exploit burden shifts. Quote, you showed uncertainty in X, where is the evidence for Y? Likely to use cumulative evidence reasoning and demand a coherent alternative model. Experienced in adversarial cross-examination and likely to press definitions aggressively. Primary risk, overconfidence. If he calls probabilistic forensic evidence, quote, proof, treats the rooftop figure as visually certain, or claims ballistics matched, Owens can score clean, factual corrections. Candace Owens, best when she can control narrative sequence and rapidly stack anomalies, images, witness contradictions, and institutional suspicion. Likely to have a very large case file from months of programming and may introduce material Wilson has not seen. Likely to frame official overstatement itself as evidence of something larger. Strong broadcast instincts can make a narrow uncertainty feel globally destabilizing. Primary risk would be inferential overreach. A long list of unexplained or suspicious items is not automatically evidence of federal fabrication, and quantity of anomalies cannot replace authentication or a causal chain. Patrick Bet David, PBD's presence probably makes the event less like a tightly timed Oxford debate and more like a long-form evidentiary confrontation. The central moderation challenge will be preventing the discussion from dissolving into dozens of unresolved exhibits. The most valuable intervention would be to maintain a live claim ledger, claim, source, objection, resolution status, then move on. Pangburn pre-debate scorecard. These are qualitative forecasts, not measured probabilities. They assess the likely debate performance under the currently stated proposition and public evidence. They should be replaced by post-debate findings once the actual arguments and exhibits are available. So we go issue, assessment, and then there is a why it matters section here. So when it comes to documented evidence breadth, Wilson has the strong edge. Forensic nuance, this is going to be an area for contention. Owens has real openings on ballistics and mixed DNA language. Wilson can neutralize them by being precise. That's going to be the big thing for Andrew Wilson. Focus on precision. Don't get pulled in that direction of personal attacks or mind reading some of his bad habits. Focus on the precision. Focus on the precision of argumentation, epistemics, evidence, precision, precision, precision. Alternative hypothesis burden, Wilson has the strong edge. Prepared case volume, Owens has an edge. Months of daily case-focused content give her a deep bank of clips, screenshots, timelines, and witnesses, though provenance quality varies. This is where you want to break these things down one at a time from Andrew Wilson's perspective. Don't let the conspiratorial stacking happen. Cross-examination. Wilson will have the strong edge. His style is optimized for forcing commitments and exposing burden shifts. Narrative persuasion. Owens' edge. She is likely better positioned to make viewers feel the official story is unstable, even if the alternative remains under-supported. Risk of factual overstatement. Both high risk here. Wilson can overstate state evidence. Owens can overstate what anomalies imply. Most likely evidentiary winner, Wilson. Conditional on no major new authenticated evidence and a proposition requiring Owens to defend the federal patsy claim. So best prediction overall. Wilson is more likely to win the debate on evidentiary merits if the moderator holds both sides to the narrow proposition and requires Owens to affirmatively defend a federal patsy explanation. Owens is likely to win several discrete fact-check moments, most notably if Wilson overstates ballistics, surveillance certainty, or DNA, and may perform very well rhetorically. The most probable substantive result is Wilson demonstrates that the current public record is substantially stronger for Robinson's involvement than for a federal frame-up. Owens demonstrates that parts of the state/media presentation have been overstated or remain legitimately contested. Owens does not establish the affirmative federal patsy claim unless she unveils new authenticated evidence with a direct causal link. We have a predicted debate arc here. Opening phase, Owens attacks the phrase, quote, overwhelming evidence with video and forensic anomalies. Wilson reframes the issue around total evidence and burden. Number 2, surveillance phase. Owens scores on lack of facial identification and edited footage controversy. Wilson responds with the broader movement/vehicle/clothing sequence. Forensics phase, Owens emphasizes mixed DNA and inconclusive bullet fragment. Wilson wins if he concedes the limits and argues cumulative inclusion rather than proof. Digital evidence phase. Wilson likely applies the greatest pressure with the alleged note, text, and their specific details. Owens must offer an authentication/fabrication account rather than merely distrust. Number 5, Twigs phase. Owens attacks immunity, DNA presence, and credibility. Wilson argues these are cross-examination factors, not affirmative evidence that Twigs or federal actors committed the shooting. Patsy mechanism phase. Wilson repeatedly asks, what exactly was planted, by whom, and what evidence shows it? This is likely the decisive segment. Then number 7, late stage scope expansion. Owens may widen the TPUSA, Erica Kirk, FBI conduct, Israel, elite networks, or other surrounding claims. Wilson will try to bring the discussion back to what directly changes the Robinson proposition. Ending. Both sides claim victory. Wilson's audience emphasizes burden and omissions. Owens' audience emphasizes anomalies and institutional contradictions. What could reverse this forecast? authenticated evidence showing a key admission message or note was fabricated, materially altered, or falsely attributed. Authenticated chain of custody evidence demonstrating the rifle or DNA evidence was planted, contaminated in a case-specific way, or improperly substituted. Video clearly establishing that the rooftop shooter is a different identifiable person, or that the prosecution's movement sequence cannot be the same person. Direct documentary, electronic, witness, or financial evidence connecting federal actors to a plan to frame Robinson. Conversely, additional independently authenticated admissions, device records, geolocation, tool mark evidence, or surveillance continuity would strengthen Wilson's side further. Let's look at someone just said thanks, but Tyler Robbins' lawyers just admitted he's guilty. Let's check that claim. Thanks for the comment, by the way. Let's look into that. All right. Let's look at epistemic safeguards for watching the debate. Do not confuse these standards. A public debate is not a criminal trial. The state must ultimately prove guilt under the applicable legal standard at trial. A preliminary hearing asks a different threshold question. A public analyst may compare which hypothesis is better supported by presently available evidence. These standards should not be silently swapped. Do not reward evidence volume without provenance. A folder of 200 screenshots can be weaker than an authenticated primary record. Every dramatic exhibit should be classified by origin, court exhibit, law enforcement release, original surveillance, first-hand witness, authenticated message, anonymous leak, edited social media image, or commentator reconstruction. Do not treat, quote, unexplained as explained by my theory. An anomaly can lower confidence in one hypothesis without raising a particular alternative very much. The alternative gains substantial probability only when evidence is more expected under that alternative than under ordinary error, ambiguity, incomplete investigation, transfer, or coincidence. Do not let the moderator decide facts by applause. PBD can manage time and claims, but factual adjudication should remain source-based. The ideal post-debate process is to extract every rateable claim, freeze the exhibits, verify each against primary records, and publish unresolved items rather than declaring instant certainty. Post-debate plan, the strongest pang-burn follow-up will be a full transcript audit, exact quotation, timestamp, claim decomposition, evidence, citation, verdict, correction, personal attack log, and a separate scoring section that avoids denominator games. And here's a viewer quick reference, strongest points on each side. This is just outlining again Wilson's strongest likely points and Owens' strongest likely points. And then the source register at the bottom of this document. Okay, so we went through a lot of information here. We first went through the full factual audit of the situation as it stands with regards to this, the lead up to the Andrew Wilson versus Candace Owens debate. So we figured out, based on the title of this YouTube video, what the hell is going on. And we laid out the record there, I think, very clearly. And then we adjudicated and tested Andrew's fundraising video, the transcript from that, against our fact findings. Everything, for the most part, Andrew talked about was factually accurate, with some incorrect normative assessments. That are normative assessments that are born of facts that I think are incorrect, had to do with, Turning Point USA and whether they are, the first conservative outlet in Andrew Wilson's time to really have a foothold in academia. I think that's easily to demonstrate not to be the case. And then we looked at the this document, the debate preview plus evidence forecast, doing a bit of a prediction of what's likely going to take place in this debate. Well, I think this will be very interesting. I think I agree with the Pangburn analysis. The big thing for Andrew Wilson and honestly, Candace Owens, don't allow yourself to move in the low resolution direction of focusing on personal attacks, mind reading, conspiratorial line drawing. That's going to be tough for Owens in this case, based on what she has to argue. But yeah, I think Andrew Wilson has the clear advantage here. And I think from a Pangburn epistemic perspective, that is, an epistemic value that relies on correspondence criteria of truth made primary from a philosophical perspective with regards to criteria of truth. That gives rise to empiricism and science as a way of knowing. From that perspective, I think Andrew Wilson's perspective that he is defending that Robinson was in fact the shooter, the assassin of Charlie Kirk, is the much well-supported position at this point based on the available evidence. And that isn't to say, like in all trials, that there will be things that you can point to in the evidence ledger that are problematic for the prosecution's case. That's the case in almost all court cases. There will be, a prosecutor will try to avoid presenting evidence that can be pointed at by the defense to say that that isn't providing that direct causal line in the way that the prosecution thinks it is. You would want to avoid presenting evidence like that. So yeah, this should be fascinating. I wanted to do this update. I myself wanted to get more familiar with what's been going on here. And I think there is virtue in someone like Andrew Wilson wanting to challenge a conspiracy theory that is seemingly causing harm. And I also can understand why this is a very popular or infamous issue with regards to the kinds of theories and ideas Candace Owens has been putting out on this issue. And I can see why people would want her to be held accountable for some of these things she's been saying in a debate format. So yeah, I get it. I think all of the money to begin with should have been raised for Charlie Kirk's kids or another important cause. But yeah, at the end of the day, for me, it was a tragedy, a horrible thing that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And I think the war of ideas, even though I agreed very little with um, with Charlie Kirk. I think the War of Ideas lost a true warrior who was fighting for ideas that are and positions that are very popular and polarizing. And it's important for the War of Ideas to have people who are strongly representing those ideas in a good faith, helpful way. I don't think Charlie Kirk was always good faith or always helpful, but I have seen examples of when he was good faith and helpful, and that's when I think he was at his best. I was in contact with Charlie Kirk's people about Charlie Kirk, discussing Charlie Kirk's involvement and coming on the Pangburn stage to engage in some debates. And it would have been great to have him on the Pangburn stage to, have his ideas challenged in a good faith, helpful way, like we do at Pangburn. But anyways, that's that. That's what the hell is going on here. So thanks everyone for joining me for this live stream. I wasn't planning on doing a kind of a midday live stream today, but I thought it was a good idea when I woke up this morning. So thanks everyone. I really appreciate those of you who stopped by. If you found this stream valuable, please hit the like button. Better yet, even share it around and make sure you're subscribed. But thank you. And please make sure you're out there maximizing well-being for yourself and those around you. We'll see you later.